Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bulldog Breakdown. I'm your host, as always, James Levasseur, and we have a pretty exciting episode today as we have the producer of a popular, well-known sports broadcasting network, NESN, Mr. Brian Zechello. He's a producer there, and Brian, thanks for coming out today.
No, my pleasure. Excited to be here.
All right, I just got some questions for you, and I'm ready to jump right in.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right, so what led up to you getting into sports media?
Well, it's funny you say that, and you doing this introduction. I started in this kind of room in Pembroke. I'm from Pembroke, from the South Shore. I don't like going north. Anything north of the TD Garden scares me. I'm just kidding. But I'm born and raised down here. I live in Rainham now. But Pembroke Community Access Television is where I started. And I had television shows in high school like this, where I hosted an NFL Pick'em show, and I hosted another show called From the Bench years ago. There's still some great videos out there of From the Bench, where we interviewed like local athletes, and I just got into it. And one of my baseball coach at the time, Bob Rogers, worked at NESN, and just started asking questions about it. And just started doing it, and then next thing you know, I was doing play-by-play for the hockey games, the football games, and the soccer games. I played baseball, so I just was always interested in the television part of it. Sports in general has been kind of what my passion has been. So it's kind of led me to where I am. But it literally started in a studio just like this.
So what led you into getting a position in NESN, and how did you start out?
Sure. When I was at school, I was at Bridgewater State, and an overnight editing position opened up. And I was 19 at the time. I was fresh out of high school, really. And Bob Rogers worked at NESN. It was like, hey, it's a 6-month position. Why don't we'll throw your name in the ring and see what happens. And, I know you can edit because I edited everything in Pembroke Community Access Television. I had that background, and I just think he thought, it could be a fit, overnights, and working on NESN Sports Desk back in the day, which was a 15-minute show, and it was all edited. So that's really how it started. And 6 months turned into this November will be my 30th anniversary at NESN. So pretty wild to think that it's kind of gone that way. And when people, hear that, I'm like, yeah, I started when I was 19, and it's pretty wild that this year's going to be year 30 for a 6-month editing position.
That's crazy. What does a typical day look like for you as a producer on game day?
Sure. My main job year-round is Bruins, so every Bruins game. And sometimes that also involves some field producing for national games as well. But for the most part, we have a really good production team. We've been doing this together for a long time. Our graphics producer, our director, even our talent. Judd Surratt was new this year, but Andy Brickley's been around for a while. Our studio folks have been around for a while. So we have we like to call it one broadcast and one team. So even though the games on an average week are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, the prep is a couple days leading into it, and watching an opponent, watching this. They're playing Carolina on Thursday. I try to at least watch a period of a recent game from them on Wednesday, and you start to build the format. But then a game day is, literally, nowadays as I've gotten older, it's you drive my daughter to school in the morning, and I'm on my laptop right afterwards, just getting some stuff ready, just making sure Judd and Brick have what they need, making sure our graphics producer has what he needs, just so we're not just keeping the ball rolling. It's all deadlines. It's not just 7 o'clock. The game goes on and we're on the air. We don't just hit play. Like, it's hours of prep. So I would say an average game day for 7 o'clock for me starts no later than 8:30 in the morning. But you're into it. Like, that's the season. It's 6-7 days a week during the season. And I get to the production truck or Watertown, Mass, where we do all road games from now. I used to travel for all the games. But now I'm there probably 7 hours before the game on average. I try to get to the production truck at the Garden by noon. That's when our tape call is. And then same thing for Watertown. I'm in our control room by noon, making sure we're preparing everything we need to prepare for the game.
Is that what it's like for Red Sox games as well?
Yeah, it's a little different. The beauty about baseball is, take this homestand, for instance. Right now they played 4 against Chicago and 3 against Seattle. That first game is when you're really coming in early and setting up. So say it's a 7 o'clock game, you're there probably between 10:30 and 11, and you're really starting bare bones, building the truck and building your, historical look backs or any kind of graphics or things that you're going to save for the whole series. That first day, we call that the set day. That's the long day. But then as the series goes on, that's 7 or 8 hours before the game becomes 5. In some positions, camera guys can be 4 or 3. because the show is set. You still come in, you fax it, things go wrong, but for a series, it does push the end times back a little bit as you get going. So, I'm sure today the 7 o'clock game or 6:45, they're probably all in at like 2:45 instead of 11:45. So that's just where baseball, you can kind of set it and forget it for a couple of days, where hockey is in and out, in and out, in and out.
What would you say you like filming more, Bruins or Red Sox games?
Well, I mean, I love I love all Boston sports, and I'm so lucky to be doing Bruins and Red Sox. That's what I've grown up with. It's been my passion, especially I'm a huge Patriots fan as well, though. But working those two sports, I take great pride in both of them, knowing just certain things in my family, my life, of how, what Red Sox mean to me, that, and what the Bruins have meant through my family's eyes, my dad's eyes for years. I take a lot of pride in that. So Bruins, it allows me a little extra time in the summer as well, so I do love that. But baseball was my first love in sport. I love baseball, and I still try to, watch every game and work every, to get a chance to work some games when I can. I produce like 15 to 18 Red Sox games during the summer, for vacations and things like that. So Bruins, I definitely am passionate about hockey and the Bruins, but my first love is baseball. So you grow up playing baseball. I never played hockey, but I've grown up loving it. So it's a tough one, but I'm going Bruins.
Yeah. How hard did it hit you when Jack Edwards announced that he was done?
Jack's meant a lot to me in my career, and we still text back and forth all the time. And that was one of the things when I got promoted internally to this position. He was one of the first people that reached out, and was excited about it. And we built a relationship through the years that is phenomenal. And we had a great run, great teammates. We always talk about that, the teammates and what our production crew is like. It is a team, with Jack and Brick. They really set the tone for that. And Jack, was excellent to me. And just, I always pinched myself sometimes, like, I'm working with Jack Edwards. Like, he's in SportsCenter commercials with my other, my favorite baseball player of all time is Roger Clemens. And it's like, this guy is a legend. And for him, there were times in my career that he, had some nice things to say. And I'd always took a great deal of pride in that, knowing that I'm Jack approved.
What's the most memorable experience on air for you, and what was it like behind the scenes?
On air, that's a good one. And I know you showed me the questions, but I missed that one. No, but on air, it's got to be 2013. With the way hockey works, we don't always get a chance to. In my current role with the Bruins, we don't always get a chance to produce the playoffs. We get to do the first round. So in 2013, the comeback against Toronto, down 4-1, 10 minutes ago. I'm talking to my wife during the intermission saying, like, summer's starting tomorrow. I'm mowing the lawn. I got things to do, whatever. And, waking up the next morning, it's like, no, they won. Bergeron scored. Like, holy, we go on now. So that, that one is, but I mean, I also I'm lucky enough, I was in the Red Sox, I was in the control room directing post-game shows, and the Red Sox won the World Series in 2004. And I'll never forget that. That was pretty wild that they won it, and I'm with a bunch of people, some of my mentors at NESN, that jumped up and were screaming, and like all of a sudden someone in the room yelled like, "Hey, whoa, we're on the air in a minute. Like, everyone calm down." Like, it was kind of like, because we were celebrating, and that's the hard part. Like, there'll be some cheers in the production trucks at times, but a lot of times you really have to kind of like, all right, we're on the air, and kind of put that to afterwards.
Down, yeah.
But that's two that stand out.
NESN has been a pioneer in 4K HDR sports broadcasting. Have you guys considered moving up maybe to 8K?
I haven't been part of those discussions yet. I think 4K, we are the only ones, and I believe this is still true, we're the only regional sports network that produces all the home games in 4K. No other network does that. SportsNet in Canada did it for a while. They stopped doing it. It costs a lot of money. It's hard work. People, and our production crews will say 4K means four times longer. There's a lot of prep, and sometimes there's little things that you might see on air. We had an issue once during a game that it was out of our control in the truck. That, like, what is that on the air? Like, look, we're trying to figure out. You troubleshoot, could be this, and find out it was just one little card, like a microchip almost, that just died in field. And that one little piece of equipment caused our broadcast to just go haywire. And it takes the engineers a few minutes to figure that out. And so there's just so much technology that I do think it's great that we were the first ones to be in HD. We went from SD to HD, and the 4K now is, what the app is, looks phenomenal. And when you stream it on, it looks excellent. So sometimes I catch myself looking we have a big monitor where I sit, and our director will cut low, and I see the low, and I'm like, wow, this looks awesome. So it is, but I do think it's right now. I think since we're the only ones that kind of produce the games in 4K, I think we're probably staying there for a while.
And then the NESN app does look good. I like the at the bottom how you guys show this the statistics of the team and stuff.
Yeah.
But with AI on the rise, do you envision using it as a tool in the future? If so, how?
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what happens in my world with remote production, doing games. I do think there's some, we're using it for some scheduling stuff and some graphics behind the scenes things that we put together. So we're starting to implement some AI stuff, but it's not. I don't know how much it's going to hit live games. I really don't. I haven't really dug into it too much. I should. I probably will. That's probably I get a little more time this offseason to dig into some of this stuff. And one of the things I am digging into is our AI, graphic system of how we're going to be rendering some of our new graphics for next year. But I think it's a scary thought sometimes of like the voices for promos and things like that, or what it could be used for. So some of our creative service department is probably a lot deeper into the AI than we are at this point. So I don't know how much in a live game you're watching a puck, go into a net or a ball go across, over this fence for a home run. I'd be curious to see what that does.
What's the most challenging aspect of filming a live sports event?
I think it's because it's live. You get one shot at it, and that's the thing that I love about it and the rush about it. And you get one shot at it, and you either nail it or you don't. And there's times where I'll lose sleep over a replay sequence. Be like, man, why did I do that? Or we had an instance this year where we had an error hit the air with communications with our master control, and those things happen in life, and just the way it goes. And I kind of lose sleep over that stuff. It's just out of my control at some points. But the live aspect of it, being in the truck, I take a great deal of pride knowing that like my friends and family are watching the games and knowing like, hey, Brian, is involved in that. Or, and some years ago, my father said to me, hey, did you see what they did in the Red Sox last night? I'm like, well, I was kind of,
I was there.
It was kind of me. But, I always say that example because that is one of the things that, when we're preparing for a game that, if there was a fight in the previous meeting or, a guy had 3 goals, I always have Pasta scoring 4 goals against Anaheim ready to go. Just certain things. My neighbor went to a game once where the Kings scored with 0.7 seconds left, and I can rattle off the date, and he goes, October 28th, 2017, and he's like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, I have it ready for every game in case it happens again. So those kind of preparations, those things that you do, go into the game that, anytime I would roll something like that in the past, Jack would, go nuts because it's not something we ever talked about, but they were just moments that would happen that we were ready for, prepared for, and those are the fun parts of the game. But the live is you get one shot at it.
You mistake, it's just there.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Bruins or Red Sox player?
Well, current or history, because I can go either way.
Doesn't matter. All time.
It's hard. That's all time. And it is wild for me to through the years. I had a poster of Jim Rice growing up in my room, and now he's a colleague at NESN and calls me Z. And Roger Clemens was my favorite pitcher of all time, and loved Roger Clemens, and I always wanted to be Roger Clemens and pitch like him. So those two, I never really met Roger, so I stay away from. I don't have any experience of that, but I always think it's pretty weird that Jim Rice, calls me Z, and he was my favorite player growing up. And on the Bruins side, Cam Neely was that for me, and same thing, like getting a chance to even see him a couple hours ago, and he worked at NESN as a studio analyst, and working with your idols, it's pretty wild. And Patrice Bergeron couldn't be more of a nicer man and human being, so he's always up there with me, and Tuukka Rask, and those are some of my favorite Bruins that through the years have stick out to me.
Were you called Z when Zdeno Chara, Big Z, was on the team?
I was.
How'd that go?
I was. There was some there were some different nicknames. He was Tall Z, and other people called me a different Z, but I'm not, so we had some fun with that. There were some times on the plane where Andy Brickley and Bob Beers were, referencing something and they said Z, and he'd be like, "What?" He goes, "No, I mean that Z." So it's it definitely happened a few times. So yeah, it was, and in Z, we call each other, Z. So it's interesting.
What were your thoughts on the Bruins season?
Disappointing. I don't like as much as I'm happy to be here on April 23rd with you and talk to you about this season. I was hoping to be in a playoff situation right now, and I mentioned earlier we used to travel full production crews, and then COVID hit, and now we've designed television networks learned how to do road games from Watertown, from different cities, really. So we travel our director and talent, but graphics producer stay home. So, but we would travel in the playoffs, and we've gone to Florida the last few years, and so I was kind of hoping for that couple of weeks on the road just to be with the team and watch some playoff hockey. But disappointing is the word, and I think they'll be back.
What about the Red Sox? What are your thoughts on how they're playing right now?
I'm concerned about a couple positions. I think they will hit. They have to hit, right? That's the hope. But I didn't know anything about Garrett Crochet, and I've actually worked one Red Sox game this year because the Bruins are off, and it was the near no-hitter against Chicago. And I was telling one of our Red Sox producers, I'm like, at some point this kid's going to throw a no-hitter this year. And I said, what are we doing? Are we prepared to? There's certain things when you're in the production truck of what happens. Like, say you're going into the ninth inning, do you skip the commercial break just to stay live to show the moment to build it up? And we literally had that discussion probably 3 or 4 days before I was working that Red Sox game. And I was getting texts saying, holy crap, he's got a no-hitter through 6. I'm like, yeah, it's happening. He's going to throw a no-hitter this year.
You got to kind of predict things.
He's going to throw a no-hitter this year. I'm going to get a hole-in-one this year is my goal, and I'm predicting Garrett Crochet will throw a no-hitter. So those are two things that will happen this year. But they're going to hit, and I think the pitching staff's going to be pretty good. And I have a joke with our graphics producer for the Bruins that I always say they're going to win 105 games. They might fall a little short, but I'm a big Red Sox fan, so they're going to be fine.
Obviously, now you're saying with away games for Bruins games, you're more local now filming. What was it like before when you had to travel filming an away game?
Yeah, the beauty about what's happened in the industry, especially at NESN, is we built a control room that's like being in a production truck. It really is. The monitor wall is great. The communication, there's certain things that change, and I had to work through some things. And when I'm in a home truck, I get Judd and Brick in my ear instantly, no delay. But now that I'm in the control room in Watertown and they're in Ottawa, it's just it's a half-second delay. So I have to get rid of that and just get used to doing the game that way, because then the voice bouncing was just tough for me to focus on replays and things. Being on site, going to a morning skate, doing all that kind of prep, I do miss that. You're with the team. You can see a player on a road game, get to know them a little bit so you get the coverage. If I see someone interacting with somebody off camera, I'll never forget, this was years ago, but watching Sidney Crosby walk up to Patrice Bergeron while Bergeron was riding a bike and just watching their conversation, I knew they were teammates in Team Canada's, but I didn't realize how close they were. And you see that in person when you're there. It caused me to kind of do a little more research on it and say, how close are they? And what even our sideline report at the time, like, let's do a hit on this. We couldn't show it because we don't really shoot that kind of stuff behind the scenes, but we could do a story about it and tell like what we observed. So that stuff I miss, the stuff that you see with your own eyes when you're traveling and you're with the team, you're on the plane, you're in the hotels. So that part I do miss, but having young kids at the time, even I traveled, now that they're a little older, I do enjoy going to volleyball games now and dance, recitals and things like that I might have missed in the past. So birthdays, so I've missed birthdays. So it's nice to be home and not be getting in at 3 a.m. from a road trip.
What was your favorite away stadium to film at?
It's a tough. Toronto is phenomenal. And when I say that, it's more than like just the rink or the building, but it's the crews and how much they know hockey. And so when I'm relying on 3 or 4 different tape operators, because I'm dealing with people for replays and stage managers in the booth that work with our talent, but I'm on, I have about 10 people in my headset at all times. But if we're looking at different replays, and I've got guys that, Andy Brickley mentions a back check, and I hear 2 people in my headset say, I have it in green. And it's like, great, let's go to it. I mean, a lot of times through the years, Brick and I have built a pretty good relationship of kind of knowing what he's looking for. But there are times where he might say something, and I'm talking to mass control, but I can hear a tape operator sell me what that look is because they're also listening. It just helps, and so that teamwork in Toronto is phenomenal. But going to city, and I've never really traveled much growing up, but so going to Nashville and experiencing that, going to, being when they won the Stanley Cup in 2011, like anytime you revisit that city in Vancouver, it's just phenomenal. So, but the crew, everything about the city, Toronto's right up there.
You were talking about replays. What goes into showing replays live? Because WPS, we were filming live sports, like the hockey games, and we couldn't quite figure out how to do the replays. What goes into doing replays live?
Well, I mean, as far as the equipment or just the decision making, I guess. We use 5 different EVS systems they're like, DVRs. They're just recording angles the whole time, and the guys are great, and female as well. Our operators are phenomenal, and so they know the equipment up, like the back of their hand. But as far as like decisions for replays and things, and I'm watching games, and I actually thought of this driving down here, and you didn't show me the questions too far in advance, but I was thinking about like replays and the job and how it goes, and I always look at it as if I'm sitting home watching the game and I want to see it. When I'm producing a game, I think of that way as a fan. Like, if I was at home right now, would I have to see that last rush of that save? And a lot of time it is driven by the analyst as well. If Andy Brickley's like, they've been awful on breakouts 3 games in a row, like, let's keep an eye on that today. And it's like, all right, perfect. So we'll start working on, breakouts. Hey, that was a good one. That was a bad one. Let's put those 2 together. That kind of stuff. But a lot of times my decision making is, it's not just the goal. It's how do they get to the goal? What was that first or second pass? What was the back check by Bergeron, that led to it? That Marchand all of a sudden's in a 2-on-1. Like, that line of Marchand, Bergeron, and Pasternak years ago was just so phenomenal to watch and replay because they did something on the ice every time. So I'm always thinking as a fan, what do I want to see? There was a game last night, New Jersey and Carolina, and it was a playoff game, but I'm sitting there going, there was an unbelievable play on one end, and they go down the other end, goalie makes an awesome save, and I didn't see the replay for a few, and I'm like, what are we doing? So
yeah, definitely watching.
So
I'll be watching any Bruins games on another network other than NESN, and I'll hear my dad in the background going, "Why aren't they showing that? Like, they're talking about this. Why aren't they showing the penalty that just happened?"
Can I bring your dad in for my next review then? So
maybe. Yeah. When the Bruins are in the playoffs, you said that you guys only cover the first round. Why is that? Like, what goes into scheduling a playoff game?
Well, I mean, it's all because of the way the TV, like the national rights holders, in baseball, we don't get to do any playoff games. So we just do pre and post game shows. Because baseball, Fox or ESPN buy the rights for playoffs. Football, same way. Football's all national anyways. But NBA, I believe, gets to do the first round as well, and NHL gets to do the first round. So regional sports networks get to produce the first round, and then once the second round happens, it's all national TV. And we still, NESN commits to do pre and post game shows for the second round, third round Stanley Cup final if it goes that far, and that's where I was lucky enough to be in Vancouver in 11 when the Bruins won the cup, and even 13 in Chicago or 19 in St. Louis. Like, travel the whole way through to see what happens with the team. So we're providing coverage for the viewers back here for the Bruins games.
All right, and my final question. So I noticed that watching some of the Pittsburgh Penguins games,
Sure,
they have a similar scoreboard to you guys. Is that just a coincidence, or I swear I heard something about NESN purchasing their parent company or something like that? Like, what's going on there?
Well, I mean, so SportsNet Pittsburgh is SNP, so you're spot on. Just pretty good, observation by you to see that, because Fenway Sports Group. So the Red Sox and Bruins own NESN, so it's and that's the structure for NESN, Fenway Sports Group, and Fenway Sports Group bought the Pittsburgh Penguins. So when that happened, they wanted to start their own television station. I think it was AT&T Sportsnet in Pittsburgh before. They were getting out of the business as far as local sports. I believe that's the case. But so Fenway Sports Group was asking NESN, what can we do to, kind of come up with their own network? So it's not like we manage them, but we're definitely partners with them. It's all our same graphics. They use a lot of the same creative services team is, builds both. They lucked out with the Penguins because it's all black and gold, so you could just take kind of the same, elements that we have, just change the tri-codes in the scoreboard, but and then different opens, things like that. So because of the Fenway Sports Group umbrella, SNP is in NESN's, portfolio.
So we won't see any Pittsburgh games on the NESN 360 app anytime soon.
I don't think. I think there's some MLB I think there's some legal issues that they can't do that, but I'm sure there's something.
Makes sense. Well,
but I will say this, like the bean pot, which is a great, Boston sports tradition. The PWHL, I think there's maybe some Hockey East championships as well, all aired in Pittsburgh, which was kind of cool because it's, on a Monday night in February, the Penguins aren't playing. Let's put the bean pot on in Pittsburgh as well. So, and we've heard a lot of the BU alum, a lot of the alum that were in Pittsburgh loved it. That hey, the bean pot got that exposure. It wasn't just NESN. So, it is a pretty cool relationship, and see what happens in the future.
Do you guys cover the PWHL games?
We air them. We don't produce them, but we have a partnership with them with a lot of our social media and content creation that we do with the PWHL and Boston Fleet. But we don't produce the games. The league kind of produces their own broadcast right now. But they are on NESN, so I think they're back this weekend.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. Thank you, Brian, for coming out. I really appreciate it. It was definitely a fun episode, learning about NESN and learning what goes into live broadcasting. So thank you for coming out.
Anytime. Glad to do it.
And thank you for watching this episode of the Bulldog Breakdown. Make sure to follow, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.